All right, we are live, and we have a decent stream health. Hey guys, so my name is Devin Denman. You're seeing this here at Louisiana Fishing Blog on the YouTube channel, and uh, we're gonna do the weekend fishing forecast for April 18th, 2019. And I'd like to kick these things out on a Thursday, just in case you're able to get off work a little early on a Friday or whatever. So we're going to go over the current conditions, what's predicted. All right, we'll look at some fishing reports people have posted, kind of gauge like what's out there, and then finally I'll give you the take on what I would do to catch fish, or if I would even go fishing in the first place. All right, guys, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Yep. All right, so current conditions. So this is a Shell Beach buoy that we're looking at, and the Shell Beach buoy. I know if you watched this before, you already know where I'm going to go with this, but it is a weather station that's located at the bottom of Lake Bourne. Let me zoom in here. Right over by Old Shell Beach. So there are other buoys, other weather stations located across Louisiana's coast, but I'm going to let you go find that on your own, and you can use the fishing trip planning links that are provided in order to do that. So the water level here is looking pretty good. It's pretty high, and that's only because the wind has been blowing its behind off out of the southeast. We have a really strong low pressure system that's over Louisiana right now, and low pressure systems tend to bring in south and east winds. So we see a climb in air temperature that is also associated with that, and of course there's a climb in water temperature that's going to come, but a drop in air pressure, and that can turn the fish on. That can. All right, but there are so many other things. I mean, just to be clear, there are so many other things that I think are going to come into play long before air pressure does. If it was just as simple as watching the barometer, we would all be catching a lot more fish. But that's not the case. So, pressing on. Let's take a look at MODIS satellite imagery to see how much river water is out there. And even though the Bonnet Carre Spillway was closed on the 11th, the 11th they closed them. Okay, so no more water is being pumped through there. And yeah, I know that there's some trickling between the wooden logs. I'm having a brain fart right now. Little pieces of wood that they put in there, but that's negligible. That has a very small impact. Anyway, so this is satellite imagery from a couple days ago, and you can see that everything's still pretty dirty, but if we zoom in here, you can also see that parts of Lake Bourne have cleaned up. All right, so and it doesn't have to look, really dark like what you see out here, guys, in order to be like clean enough to fish. You only need it to be not tan. All right, these fish will put up with the river water, and we've already seen that. If you look at the hydrocoast, man, that's something I didn't pull up. We want to look at that. We're going to look at that. But you can even kind of guesstimate water salinity over here on the east side of the river, and I encourage you to do the same thing, on the west side of the river. Okay. East Biloxi Marsh is probably going to have the saltiest water just by looking at the water color. And as y'all can imagine, Grand Isle probably has the saltiest water in all of coastal Louisiana right now. In fact, let's just look at it for giggles. So here's the Barataria Basin hydrocoast map. I say that there's been a problem. Darn it. Alright, guys, well, we're just kind of stuck with this right now. Let me just see if I just can't manually zoom in. Yeah, it's not working. Alright, whatever. Anyways, Grand Isle's right there, and anywhere you see like the really like the green lines, the yellow lines, and orange lines, that's really salty water. Anywhere you see blue lines, that's not salty water. Very low salinity. All right, but we're able to get the Lake Pontchartrain Basin to pull up. So let's take a look. Zoom in a little bit more here. So you can see Lake Pontchartrain is basically just straight fresh water, 0.5 parts per thousand according to this map, and that's where I was catching speckled trout, guys. And yeah, you'll see that report here in a little bit. Most of the Mississippi Sound is still pretty salty, but it's starting to creep back in, so that's good. And we're looking at this, guys. The whole reason we're looking at this is because speckled trout are going to need a minimum salinity of 15 to 17 parts per thousand in order to spawn. So right now they're still inside the marsh. They are very well inside the marsh right now. It's only April, but with this full moon they're going to start shoving out, right? And especially next month. And we want to get an idea as to where it is they're going to go, because we're not doing the short-term success fishing. If you want to go for short-term success, go for it, okay? Because you're going to have long-term non-success. You're all right. You won't enjoy long-term success. I like to plan for long-term success. I want to have an idea as to where it is I should begin looking for these fish once they make their way out there. And the East Biloxi Marsh is definitely a winner, especially over there by like Point Lydia and Christmas Camp Lake and whatnot. And maybe even the Long Rocks over here, even though I did recently fish the Long Rocks and we caught some fish out there, but there wasn't anything crazy going on. In all fairness, it is pretty early for that. So, yeah, Christmas Camp Lake, Lydia Point, Long Rocks, all that good stuff. Now, let's go ahead and start looking at wind and rain predictions and all that. I like Windfinder. If you haven't used Windfinder before, it's totally awesome. There's a phone app that you can use, but there's also this the website. There's also the website you can access via your desktop, laptop, computer, and I really like it. Now here's Shell Beach, and I encourage you to go look at whatever weather station is closest to you, and you can see that tonight, we're going to get slammed pretty hard. Man, wind gusts up to 44 miles per hour. There's going to be a lot of rain. Air pressure is going to get ridiculously low. But this front looks like it's really strong, but it's also moving very, very fast because it's going to clear up. It's going to clear up pretty quickly. However, tomorrow we're looking at wind gust over 30 knots. And guys, I really just don't feel that that's a if you have to ask if that, we'll put it this way, and I don't mean to sound like a dick, but we're talking about safety issues here. If you have to ask if that's too strong of a wind to go fishing in, don't go fishing. All right, because it'll be very easy to capsize a boat in big water. Could you go fishing and stay protected, and like behind like a big wall or a big levee or trees or something? Yes, absolutely. And if you can run to your fishing spots protected, by all means go for it. But otherwise, wind like that makes everything difficult, makes casting tough, and knocks a huge bow in your line. So I would say tomorrow would actually be a good day to do something related to inshore fishing. And I think something that'd be really good would be to contact your state representatives and state senators in regard to the House bills that are being pushed through the legislature right now. So state legislatures in session, and if you live under a rock and you just don't know, we have this huge problem with water access and being able to fish water that's navigable, that's subject to the flow and ebb of the tide, or like a river, or whatever. But I'm not going over that right now. If you want to ask questions about it, don't comment here. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because all I'm going to do is say, go to the go to the Sportsman's Coalition page. Google it, look for it on Facebook. They have tons of information there. I am not a subject matter expert on everything having to do with it, but they are, and that's why they exist. So please go to them, okay? Otherwise, if you hit me up, I'm just going to tell you to go over there. So anyway, so going back to this, Friday is going to be absolutely blowing its butt off. Maybe not a great day to go fishing. And that temperature change right there can send fish running for deeper water anyway. But Saturday is going to chill out a little bit more. The temperature is going to come back up a little bit. And high pressure will start setting in, right? So that could be, I don't know, it really depends, but it could be bad for trout fishing. Redfish could become a little spookier, but if you're throwing live shrimp underneath the popping cork, boom, you got it, baby. Uh, the wind's still going to be blowing. Just this time it's blowing hard, but it's manageable. Now note the direction that is blowing from today out of the south, and then it rotates out of the northwest. And what that's going to do is that's going to cause water levels to get really high, which we've already seen on the Shell Beach buoy. And then once that wind starts cranking out of the northwest, the water level is going to drop. So it's going to, even though we kind of have a flat tide, right? You look at it, we don't really have a great tide. Like what's this? High tide at 6:34 for 1 foot. Okay, low tide's 10:26 for 1 foot. Same thing at 3:26. And here's a visual representation of that. You don't really have a whole lot of tide going on, but that wind will create like an artificial tide. So it'll blow all the water out of the marsh. You'll have like a faux falling tide. It's almost as if it were a real falling tide. So that's something to consider. Sunday's going to be a lot better, a lot more doable, and that wind's going to turn and start cranking out of the south, and will help bring that water back up, which is cool because Sunday the tide's going to start acting like normal again. So we're going to have a low tide of 0 feet at midnight, and then it'll be rising all day to 4 p.m. 1.3 feet. That's a good tide range. That's an awesome tide range. And combined with that south wind, that will definitely make sure that it rises. It brings water back inside the marsh. You're going to have tons of good moving water. So that's something to consider. It's definitely something to consider. Pressing on here. So we already covered sun, rain. Latest fishing reports. Let's take a look at that. So, and these aren't all the fishing report, guys. I'm just showing you this so you know that people are catching fish. Here's Cliff. He went out of Delacroix, and he says he caught an easy limit of reds, a huge catfish, and 4 flounder. That's odd. We really haven't been on flounder, but that's great. Awesome. Most on live shrimp, some on plastic. All caught on the edge of grass beds on the inside Delacroix. So this is cool. People are catching fish. Same thing here with this fishing report. Here's one from Alan. He ran down to Port Sulphur. Target was redfish. He had a late start, and it looks like he caught some redfish. So that's also great. This isn't quite a fishing report, but it is equally important, and it is what I was talking about earlier in regards to the state legislature and contacting your state representatives and telling them, hey guys, this is the issue I have with water access, and these are the things I want to do. And if you're not educated on these House bills, like House Bill 270, there's House Bill 270, there's others too. There's 2 others. One of them, if you're familiar with House Bill 391 from last year, it was actually rewritten by Representative Pearson, and it is rewritten better. It's on steroids, and I'm that's what I've been told. I'm quoting that. So definitely do that when you're not fishing, when the wind's blowing really hard. And here's a fishing report I posted where we went and caught some speckled trout out at the Long Rocks in the Mr. Go. And we ended up catching 20, so it wasn't like we limited out. So we had to move around. It was tough to get on them, but we eventually did. And the fish that we caught were quality fish, and you can see that. You can see the mouth of that speckled trout. Here's Jamie's speckled trout right here. I believe this one was 21 inches and was right at 4 pounds. So, not the biggest fish in the world, especially not compared to what they catch in Florida and Texas, but for here in Louisiana, those are nice speckled trout. Speaking of nice speckled trout, there's a fishing trip review that I just did. It is up. It's on LAFB Elite, and it's for Lake Pontchartrain, so you can see how it was that despite the river water and whatnot, how I was able to catch speckled trout there in Lake Pontchartrain there on the trestles. And where is it? Let me pull it up right here. Here we go. Oop. So yeah, you can see it. You can see it right here. Boom. There's a trout being flipped in, but I have it broken down into a planing video and then the rest of the videos of the actual fishing trip are broken down according to like what's going on. Like, I switch to the east side of the bridge, and then I start jigging the west side. I do a color change, and that catches me more trout. And I like to explain what it is that I'm doing as I fish. I narrate, so you're kind of able to learn, what it is that I do, how it is that I catch these fish. And just to give you a kind of a preview here. So I'll show you exactly where it is that I'm fishing, how I have the boat positioned, which tackle it is that I'm using. And you get to see each fish that's caught. Let me see if I can't find a... I'm not going to mess with it too much. But I think this day I went out and I caught 22 on the bridge. There we go.
Oh no, it's a little dingleberry.
No, that's a dingleberry redfish. Anyways, so you scroll down and you'll see that there's a comment section where if you have a question, you can punch in a comment, punch in a question, and then I'll get to you as soon as I can. So it's pretty cool. It's a really good learning tool, and that's all inside LAFB Elite. So if you want to try it out for 2 weeks for free, for 14 days free, use code WFF14. It stands for Weekend Fishing Forecast. WFF14. I'll get you 14 days free. Anyway, so let's move on and let's go into how it is I'm going to fish these conditions. Let me pull up Google Earth. Whether you're fishing speckled trout or redfish, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I've been telling y'all. Start out close to the marina, okay, and then work your way out. Like if you're launching from Hopedale Marina right there, start out hitting up these ponds, get on a lee shoreline, okay, and that's the shoreline where there's smooth water, and start there looking for redfish. If you are looking for speckled trout, what I suggest you do is that you start fishing your winter and fall spots. All right, which I guess at the end of the day are spring spots. But if you don't have any spring spots, but you have winter and fall spots, start fishing those and working your way outside, because I fished the outside for speckled trout recently. They weren't really there. Where we've been finding speckled trout is much further inside. All right, like closer to the marina, we'll put it that way. So start there, and then work your way outside. Now, the problem we have with this weekend is that we're going to have a lot of wind, right? And wind kind of puts a damper on things. So when that wind's cranking out the northwest, a shoreline you positively do not want to fish would be a shoreline like this one, because that wind's going to be blowing across this entire body of water. It's going to be nuking that shoreline. But this shoreline right here won't be getting blasted by the wind. This water will remain clean, and it'll be a little tough to kind of cast into the wind to the shoreline. But especially if you're throwing popping corks or something a little bit heavier, like a Berkeley grass pig, you'll be able to cut through the wind. You'll be able to make it happen. So those are the shorelines I'll fish. And when you plan your fishing trip, wherever it is you go, you want to run protected. Like running, down this canal and through this bayou is an example of staying protected from the wind. A really bad example of staying protected from the wind, especially when it's cranking out the northwest like that, is running from like Chef Pass across Lake Bourne to Bayou St. Malo over here. You're going to get rocked, and if you're not in the boat that's suited for that kind of sea state, you'll probably end up capsizing the boat, and that's no good. You don't want to go swimming, you want to go fishing. So I would stay protected, okay, and I would fish protected shorelines. Now, something else that's also good to keep in mind is that you might have really, really tall landmarks, like the rock dam is an example. You can get behind this when that wind's cranking out the northwest, and you'll be fine, okay? I mean, you'll still have some wind blowing on you, but you won't be, sitting in 2 and 3 footers either, all right? Another good example of a place where you can hide from the wind would be like the Great Wall of Chalmette, okay? I'm not saying that this is a spot you should go fishing. I'm just using it as an example. You have this big old flood wall, all right, and you can get on this side of it when that wind's blowing from the northwest, and you'll be in lee water. You'll be protected, all right? And you could even, I wouldn't be against like fishing these rocks and letting that wind blow me down the rocks and maybe kick out a drift sock so you move a little bit slower. but go down the rocks, and it'll be pretty lee until you get way, way, way far away from the wall, and then it'll start kicking a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. But anyways, guys, that's what I would do. Remember, you can use WFF14 to get 14 days free of LAFB Elite. Go try it out. And if you have any questions or comments, post them up below. And if you want to learn more about the whole water access issue and what it is that you can do to fight for our fishing freedom, for your fishing freedom, really, at the end of the day, head on over to the Louisiana Sportsmen's Coalition on Facebook and look for them. I want to say it's like lasc.net, or just Google it. Ask your phone, hey, Louisiana Sportsmen's Coalition, boom, and they don't pop up. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you. If you got any other questions, just post them up below.